So there's a shocking new report out of Australia about alleged war crimes involving Australian special forces in Afghanistan. This long-awaited report involved hundreds of interviews from witnesses on the ground.
Well, the Australian Defence Force, or ADF, released findings from a 4-year investigation into misconduct by its forces in Afghanistan, specifically that Australian special forces soldiers allegedly murdered Afghan civilians, and the report really underscores the investigation and killings as, according to the report, quote, possibly the most disgraceful episode in Australia's military history.
Not in the heat of battle, not when there was any possible excuse of confusion or the heat of battle. These were cold-blooded murders of civilians, entirely mercilessly, and civilians that were entirely helpless to defend themselves.
George Galloway is right, of course, but if we go back to the atrocious surprise attack on Pearl Harbor by Japan on December 7th, 1941, they weren't attacking helpless civilians who were unable to defend themselves. They were attacking the heaviest armored and the heaviest armed weapons at the time in the United States Navy. They were attacking the heaviest weapon, the hardest military target that they could have possibly chosen to attack. Weapons that certainly could defend themselves and certainly fight back, and of course we did. That makes the Japanese more justified in their attack. Got up in our grill and attacked us on our territory, invaded our airspace, started dropping bombs and launching torpedoes at us, that they were somehow in the right because they were attacking things that could defend themselves? Of course not. The Japanese, they were the Japs, they were evil, and that we were going to teach them a lesson that they would never forget, and, you know, drop atomic bombs on their heads and blow up entire cities full of people. Yeah, man, I mean, they had it coming. Pearl Harbor. That was where everybody's mind was at. It was fine. What's the difference between somebody who picks up an AK-47 and joins a group of people who are going to go out and do something about the fact that their country is being invaded? What, so they have an AK-47 in their hand and they're trying to defend themselves and they're trying to throw the invaders out of their own country. They're home, they have no place to go. It's okay. Somehow that's not murder. Somehow it's okay. It's justified because they're able to defend themselves. But these farmers, I mean, these people are the farmers. You're talking about prisoners. Well, we killed prisoners in cold blood. Whose prisoner? Whose prisoner were they? Under what authority, under whose authority were these people even in a prison in the first place? Is this the Afghanistan government? Do you support the Afghanistan government? Do you know anything about whether or not this government that they have in place right now is worth supporting with a dime of taxpayer money? I don't. They never made the case. They don't come to the American people and say, hey, we've got this policy we're considering doing. We've got this government over here. Look at these people. Look at these cats. Look at this guy over here. Look at that guy over there. Look at this. What do you think of this? You're going to have a referendum? Are you going to vote on this or that? No, American people don't have a say. We don't have a voice. We don't have an opinion on what we're going to do over there with all this crap. They do what they want to do. And they spend our money doing it. And we let them get away with it. And we don't question it. And we're not allowed to talk about it. Half of these guys, they were farmers. You know, half of these women, they're housewives. There's other people running around with AK-47s. They were teachers. They were sanitation workers. They were government workers. They were policemen. They were firemen. They were the village elders. They're cobblers and carpenters and you name it. They come from all walks of life. They come together. They arm themselves to throw the invaders out. Why isn't that murder? Found them without a gun. They're in a cage. They're trapped under the authority of, maybe it was the Australian military who had these people locked up. Maybe they were the prisoner of the Australian military. And so, well, they had done something bad in the past. We know that guy picked up a gun and tried to shoot at us. So let's go kill him. I mean, what, you know, you can rationalize this shit in your mind. If you are over there and you put these people in this kind of a predicament, they're going to start to rationalize. They're going to start to think like this, as would you. The people that are making these policies are the ones to blame. The government of Australia is the one to blame. The real criminals are the policymakers, are the people who agreed to send these quote-unquote murderers over there in the first place. The real criminals are the police that come in to arrest the journalists who are going to blow the lid on this story and blow it wide open for the world to see. The real criminals are the ones who put Julian Assange in prison. Those are the real criminals. You start with that. If you want to solve this problem, and if you want to stop the mass murder of innocent civilians all around the world, you start with that. Mindless policy of invading and occupying other people in perpetual war and expecting people to behave like angels and saints. Okay? You put people over there in this kind of an environment with a policy this stupid, then these are the kinds of things that are going to happen every single time. Expect it. Expect it. This is what's going to happen every single time. You have to think about that and know that ahead of time before you put these people over there, before you put people into this kind of mess. You think about it. You think, do I want this to happen? Do I want this to happen again? Do I want more innocent civilians to be killed? If you don't care, then put these people over there because it's going to happen again.
The Australian Broadcasting Corporation, the equivalent of the BBC, was raided by the Australian government when it became clear that they were onto this story. The files, the computers of the ABC were taken away by police officers. Journalists were charged with threatening to reveal these war crimes that now stand exposed for the whole world to see. This is what you might call the Julian Assange approach. If someone's ready to blow the whistle on gruesome crimes, don't go after the criminals, go after the person that is about to tell you about them.
Go after and go after. The real criminal is the noun on the other side of that verb, go after. Who's going after? The Australian government. That's the criminal. The people who put these soldiers of the Australian military into this situation in the first place. Those are the criminals. That's what you go after if you're incensed by this, if you care about this, if you care about the slaughter of innocent civilians. That's the real criminal in this case. It's not the people who are doing the heinous murders. If all you're going to do is go after the people who do the killings, the blooding that we call it, where they're trying to get their first kill and they have to be blooded. And so, here's some guy in a cage over here, why don't you go shoot him in the head? And then you can get your first kill, you can get your first blood, and you can become one of the gang. You have to go after the people that started all this in the first place. If all you're going to do is prosecute the people who are on the ground over there who do these crimes, you're just trimming the twigs. Trimming the twigs on the branches of the bush that you planted there. And we need to uproot the bush. We need to uproot the people that are putting these soldiers over there in the first place when they know damn well, when they know full well that this is the kind of shit that happens every single time. And you identified it, George Galloway, and you're one of the very few in the mass media who can. Vietnam, Iraq, now here, the United Kingdom, Australia, the United States. This shit never ends if you don't learn how to question and challenge the policy.